This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another SkySwitch webinar. My name is Erica Vasquez, and I'm going to kick things off for everybody today. Today, we're going to go over our new business SMS platform with Cloud Message that was announced at Vectors. This platform is an advanced text messaging platform that allows users to communicate with their customers via text message while utilizing their existing phone numbers. Today, we have Sean Breeden, Steve Hudson, and Derek Hennekins with us to go over everything. And so to start things off, I'm going to push things over to Sean.
Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's enjoying their day so far. My name is Sean Breeden. I'm the Director of White Label Sales here at SkySwitch. I've been with SkySwitch for the last 5 years. My role in this is to help and partners as much as possible in regards to demonstrations, any price analysis, compare and contrast different pricing, whatever's needed from a demonstration standpoint or pricing standpoint. Me and my team will be able to assist.
Great. How you doing? My name's Steve Hudson. I been with Cordoff 4 years. I'm fairly new to the SkySwitch world since the acquisition. I was an implementation specialist. I'm now referring to me as a UCAS SME. I'm going to be here to help the resellers out with new products, really just kind of make things more easy for you guys with any questions and do demonstrations as needed.
Excellent. Good morning, Derek Hennekins here, Product Director for SkySwitch. Came on board last summer to take on some of the product needs for SkySwitch, help with new products and roll them out. I've been focused mostly on 10DLC and SMS for the last several months. Prior to coming on board with SkySwitch, I was actually at a MSP and I set up a UC practice using SkySwitch. And prior to that, I actually was at a different MSP, VAR, and I sold Cordial. Sean?
Yeah, so we just wanted to kick things off with what features are being brought to the table with Cloud Message. So we have, you're able to share numbers to access multiple numbers from a single logon. It supports MMS, address book. We have canned responses, keyword subscriptions, and auto replies. There's user guides that are built in there. We're able to set different away messages, as well as there is also a mobile app where everything is replicated to the mobile app. So anything that's done on the web-based interface will relay over to the to the mobile application. So that way you're having the same experience from both ends, whether you want to use the web application or the mobile application. And then the way that our two plans, it basically just breaks up into two different plans. We have a starter plan, which includes all the features and functionalities that I just mentioned, which also comes with 2 users and a 6-month conversation retention. The cost for that is $10 is your cost. And then we also have professional, which includes all the standard features, plus 3-year conversation history. It adds SMS blasts, reminders, drip campaigns, conversation export, web hooks, and also API access. So that price there is $30. Is $50 cost for our partners. So you have the $10 cost with the starter and $50 with the professional, and we'll dive a lot deeper into pricing in the Q&A here and answer any questions that our partners have.
Great. So resources. So I just wanted to kind of touch on my role, our team here, the UCAS SMEs. We're part of the partner success team, and just kind of want to emphasize that we're a technical resource that you guys can lean on to help you guys, either close a deal or even give you some assistance with build outs, but also with these new products that are being rolled out, in today's situation here at the Cloud Message. I'll be here to help you guys out, give you guys some demonstrations when needed, but ideally with this 2-pronged approach, after we have these webinars, what we're going to do is set up some weekly meetings that people can jump in, do a Q&A session, And from there we can even go a little further if a reseller needs it and do some demonstration and training from there. But just know, again, we're here to help you guys out. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to your PAMs or even the sales team.
Excellent. So how do we get started with getting Cloud Message? It's just like any of the other add-on services that are billable. Basically, you go under your profile and inside of Dash Manager, click on Settings. There's going to be a window that pops up, or a different the page that pops up. There's a little thing that says Add-on Services on the left, and it basically brings up a jot form. And then in that jot form, you're going to select the service. It's going to be Business SMS Activation. It's going to ask you to fill out things like reseller information, who's the contact, and all that type of stuff. Pretty straightforward getting it. What it does is it actually creates a ticket, goes into our ticketing system. Support looks at it, they assign it to the billing services, they do what they need to do. And then what happens there is they grant access to you. Generally, this is done after a demo, or in this case, webinar. There's a few things that we want to kind of go over and reiterate and enforce as far as kind of gotchas or things to know when it comes to Cloud Message. And that way, once you've done the demo, you get access to it. So how to get into it? At that point, you just go into Dash Manager after access has been granted. You click on Apps at the top and you click on Cloud Message. It is currently in beta still today. We intend to go full live, hopefully here at the end of the month. There's just a few other things that we're trying to shore up, and I'll go through some of that in the UI during the demo. So what happens when you click on it the first time is it actually single sign-ons you in and creates your reseller environment, creates an account for you, admin account. I'll talk a little bit about the differences in there as well. But it is important to know that you're to not edit your admin accounts. They are created automatically and they're single sign-on. And so the only reason you would actually end up editing one of those is that you would be removing them if somebody didn't need access anymore. It's really simple to create a new customer. There's three basic steps to remember. The first step is just prepping a telephone number, and that's as easy as going into the telephone number under the telco portal. You open the number, you edit it, you turn on SMS and MMS, and you add a brand and campaign. There's no need to add any routing here. So if you look at the bottom, it just says choose option. You don't even have to have an option under there. The part of the provisioning of a user inside of Cloud Message will actually set the route for you. And so that's pretty straightforward. So the first step is to prep the number. The second step is to create or verify the organization. So if this is a new customer, obviously you're going to create a new organization. And so basically you go in and create it. You tie it to a domain on the PBX, and that ties into some things like single sign-on and filtering for suggested SMS-enabled telephone numbers for assigning to a user. From there, you just give it a description, pick a professional plan or a starter plan. Depends on who you're setting up. Generally, I recommend you set yourself up as a reseller as a customer first, so that way you can demo out those professional functions. Once you have that organization created or verified, you just go ahead and create the user. And it's as simple as setting up the first, last name, email address, organization, telephone number. And then the external identifier is what enables our single sign-on to the PBX, so you can use your ReachEC PBX credentials. So the next step is going to be a demo. So essentially, I'm going to just pull out here and go into the demonstration. So I'm going to show you the user interface. We're going to kind of walk through. I think Steve's going to play along and send some text messages in here and there. But I'm just going to kind of walk through the interface and kind of show you where things are and how they function real quickly. And so the intention here is right now you can use it as cloudmessage.io. You can sell it as that. You can otherwise you can brand it. We do have full instances available where you can customize it, color, brand, URL, all of that type of stuff. The other option is to use the Cloud Message as it is. One thing that we're editing right now is we're adding in the ability to change your reseller logo out at the top left. So it could be Cloud Message powered by ABC reseller. Help menus are located inside. So we do have, and I'll show you a little bit, we do have some basic documentation and some short videos that you can refer to on our docs page. But most of the help menus are in here, and they are role-based help menus. So if you're a starter, you're not going to see things like canned responses, drip campaigns, or blasts. But if you're a professional, you will. And if you've been elevated into an administrative role within the organization, you would see the admin menu. So if you do have customers that have their own IT person, you can elevate them to be able to make changes, reset passwords, and things like that. Getting started is pretty straightforward. You can do a new conversation. You can either type in a new number or you can pick somebody from the list. Anything that comes in from the outside will also create a conversation. Your conversation list shows here at the left side. This is pretty straightforward. If you do want to export and then delete, you can do that, or export an email. There is an export option. Messages back and forth. They can just type in hello, send a message, and it's going to go back and forth just like a regular SMS. Your options that you have here are MMS. So you have the ability to go in and pick a picture and send an MMS. And you can see that basically it will resize it to whatever size it needs to send it. And you can put in a caption as well. So MMS works pretty good. And then the next piece is canned responses. So this is going to be something like if you have a bunch of questions coming in and you don't want to sit and type out all your answers, you can pre-populate templates or canned responses with whatever you want to submit. And so you can put in things like this is a demo. And then we do have merge words, by the way, so you can actually personalize it. So I can type in this bracket, first bracket. And then when I send that message, it's actually going to change it to this is a demo and then put Steve's name in. The next piece is the drip campaigns. So this is done in a couple different ways. I describe it a couple different ways. The easiest way to describe it is a nag feature. So if I want to go ahead and basically tell Steve, hey, I need you to get milk or whatever it is, I can preload up this this drip campaign, and the different messages can be sent out in different cadences. So I can send it out a minute away, 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away, hour, a day, however you want. And so when I initiate it, it's going to show up as a scheduled message inside of my conversation. I do have the ability to edit or delete it at that point. And what this is intending to do is to get the information to somebody or get a response. Any response is going to cancel any successive messages. So if they respond after the first or second message, that second or third will actually be terminated. The acknowledgement is actually what they're looking for, and that's the purpose of a drip campaign. The other use you could use it is as essentially you could use it as kind of like an onboarding tool. So the way I also describe it is I might be able to say I'm onboarding a customer, and then 1 day from now, I want to send it and say, hey, here's a tips or tricks. 2 days from now, I want to be able to send them a URL and say, here, follow this, whatever it is. And then maybe the third day, I ask them to, follow a URL, sign up for a calendar link for me. And then we want to get on a meeting and review kind of what we've gone through. So you can kind of use it whatever you want. The other way you can use it is to, remind somebody to pay their bill, or as a reminder to confirm their appointments. So if you end up setting up a reminder, and we'll get to that in a second, you can actually set the reminder for Monday, appointments on Friday, and then by Tuesday, if you haven't got a response, you can actually send a drip, and it'll respond to them once a day until they actually respond at that point. So there's a question. If they respond to an onboarding drip, will they not get the rest of them? Correct. So if you respond to the drip after it says get milk, and let's say Steve responds with okay at this point, the rest of them will go and be removed. However, if they respond with a canned response autoresponder, then that will send the canned response and continue the drip. So if your first drip, the message that you sends something like get milk, the second one says here's directions, reply directions. The directions might have a URL that will send them to whatever, Google Maps or whatever it is. But then the drip will still continue. If they respond, that basically in the drip campaign, it's acknowledging the drip campaign, and you're starting that conversation. If you want to continue the drips, you restart the drip and then just remove the ones that have been sent. So I can go back in here and hit the drip, go ahead and pick which one I want, apply that campaign, and then I can just remove the first one that has been sent out already. So then they'll get to continue to get the rest of the drips. So that's the way to continue that as well. So that's the conversation piece, and the next piece I'm going to jump into is the number sharing. So number sharing is been pretty common request. This is where you're going to have a SMS enabled on your main telephone number or maybe another person's number, and you're going to want to be able to go in and send messages or receive messages based on that number. Or what's happening here is it's basically a masquerading. So you're jumping in and you're changing your view into that the user that your number shared into. So in this case, I just show a fake number and then basically created a conversation. And the reason I did that is a couple things. There's a little status button on each of the messages that's going to say sent or whatever. In this case, I created a fake one just so you can see that there is a retry. However, when you're in a normal conversation and you hover over any of these things, basically it's going to say sent by here. So if I'm logged in as the main telephone, logged in as me, and I jump over to the main telephone number and I send a bunch of messages, it's going to say sent by Derek. And if Steve does the same thing, he jumps in and responds, it'll say sent by Steve as well. We have had a request to put that underneath the timestamp. So there, just so you know, there's a lot of little simple requests that we have that we're going to get changes. This is basically how it was designed and put out. So that just so you know that you have the ability to track who sent messages. All right, so the next piece is going to be the away message. So the way the away message is, you set and you pick one of your canned responses as your away message. So if Steve, you wanted to say hello or something, and then we can kind of show the away message. Send the message in there. And then what this does is this will respond with a canned response on every message going forward. So one of the things that I've asked for is put a timer on it so that I can continue to use canned responses and keywords to continue to allow people to get the information they need. However, the simplest way to do this is in your away message, just go and say, hey, thanks for reaching out. I'm unavailable. Call this number for support, or email this for sales, or whatever it is. And again, you can put in telephone numbers, email addresses, URLs, whatever you want in your responses. That is the away message. The next piece is contact. So when a contact is created is basically anytime you start a conversation, a contact is created. Today, we don't have any integrations. Our integrations are planned out in the future to be able to do some name resolution. There is no caller ID name on SMS. So essentially, you have to add that person as a contact. So what you can do is you can come in here. Once this conversation is started, it's going to show up as their number as their name. All you have to do is go ahead and change that to their name. And from there on out, you will see that populate wherever it is. So the merge words become usable. So when you personalize a message, then you can start to use those merge words. To create a contact, you just create a contact. It's just name and number. Otherwise, you can just edit the one that's existing from a conversation. Otherwise, you can import. So there's a sample file here, CSV file. Otherwise, you can paste in the CSV format, and then if it has a header, skip it. The neat part about importing is you can actually import them straight into a list. So if I had a list, like demo or whatever it is, I could actually create the list first, give it a name, create the list, and then I can come in here and import everybody and throw them right straight into a list. So if I had a bunch of new leads and then I was going to message out, send a blast, I could actually just pick the leads, import the users, and then boom, now I have a prepped list for when I want to send out a blast message. Lists. So it's pretty easy to create a list. You just give it a name, and then once it's there, you can start editing it. So the neat part here is I can actually give an auto subscribe keyword to a list. So Steve, if you want to just send the word demo in, you can kind of show them the auto subscribe. The couple ways I can add them is with the subscription keyword, or I can also click on add as well. So you can see once he sends in the word demo, a couple things actually happen. In this case, I have him subscribe to a list, but I also have him a keyword or a canned response being sent back out. So when he sends in the word demo, I send back a response that says, this is a demo. I may actually let them know that they're added to a list for future conversations or blasts. However, I just added them to a list automatically. Again, you can go in here, you can import in straight to the list, or you can just go ahead and manually add those users. The next piece, canned responses. So here is an example of a canned response that does not have a keyword, so your away message. Your canned responses are, again, just a template of a sentence or a phrase or whatever it is that you don't want to have to repeat typing every time. The other option you can do is you can have keywords on each one of them. So for example, like if I wanted to type in the word Tuesday, I might be sending out what my specials are if I'm a restaurant or a bar or whatever. I can just text the word Tuesday in and get what those specials are. The neat part we have here, we do have QR codes. So for example, if I wanted to pull up a QR code and print it and put it in my signature that says hello or whatever it is, I can actually have people start scanning and sending in messages, give them an auto response. And the nice part about that is when it comes to 10DLC, having them start the conversation from the outside coming in gives them is basically an implied consent. It sends them back a message that says you're dealing with ABC company, and you have the ability to stop conversations at any time. However, when it comes to when we get into blast campaigns and things like that, you'll definitely want to make sure you're dealing with your 10DLC properly. But nonetheless, this is a neat way to be able to have auto subscriptions. So let's say you're a school or a bar or whatever, and you put in a QR code there that's a keyword, sends it in, sends them back and saying, hey, you're on our specials list or whatever. We'll randomly send out coupons or whatever. Or an event, hey, event's coming up, you're going to SMS blast those out. So the QR code generator is kind of a neat way to do it. Again, if you just want to add a response, give it a friendly name. This is how you're going to be able to organize them. It might be, hey, this is going to be, the specials or whatever it is. If you have a keyword, I generally put them in capitals. So inside here and in the body. So if I'm referring to a different canned response with a keyword, I generally put that keyword in capital. A lot of new phones will actually see the word like reply, specials, and then suggest you type the word special in from there. So that's the canned responses, pretty straightforward. You can use these like an auto attendant. So you can have like a hello one, and then it says reply with sales, and you can link to sales. You can reply with support, link to support, a bunch of different things, or they can just be standalone. And once it's published, it's pretty much straightforward as long as you don't edit it or remove the keyword. You can change the content, but the QR code shouldn't matter or change. So drip campaigns, we kind of already talked about them. The way you create them is you kind of give them a name, and then you add however many drips you want. So however many messages you want to send out, you can send them out 1 minute from now, 1 hour from now, 1 day from now, however you want. So a lot of times you'll send them in succession, like within a couple of hours, or once a day, or whatever it is. When you send the drip, like for example, it's 10:21 for me. If I send the drip in a minute from now, and then 1 hour from now, and then a day from now, it'll go out 10:22, it'll go out 11:22, and then it'll go out 11:22, the next day. So you make sure you understand when you set these up, do some testing with it, get the flow and figure that out. Again, this is just kind of a nag or initiation of a conversation type of tool, and it's kind of helpful to get somebody to respond. Blast campaigns. I know Sean's been testing with these. This is pretty simple. It's basically the shotgun approach. You're going to send one message to a bunch of people. You can send it in draft. You can send it in, send it now. You can schedule it. So if you're doing number sharing and you want to send a blast off the main telephone number, you could go into your account, number share over or masquerade over is the main telephone number, create your draft and save it. And then basically what I could have do, Sean or Steve could go in on their account, verify it, approve it, schedule it, or send it out at that point. If you want to send now, let's say it's weather related or something's come up, or you have a sale happening right now and you want to send everybody a message, whatever that is. Again, you can personalize your messages with first name, last name, title, suffix. From what I've seen most of the time, it's just hello first, and then again the name gets populated in there. Again, back to the 10DLC portion. If you have your opt-ins tracked in a CRM, you can track your opt-ins in any fashion, whether it's an instant message or a call or email or click on a web page. You can track those opt-ins. If you put those into your CRM and export them in as a client, reseller can go ahead into the 10DLC campaign and import those opt-ins. So when you send out a blast, none of your messages are going to be stopped, because at that point you have an opt-in for everybody. And it's also nice to be able to have a footer on the bottom of these when you do the imports into the 10DLC campaign, because it also reminds the wireless subscriber that they do have the option to stop to unsubscribe. And at the bottom for your blast, you can either pick who you want added to it, or you can pick the list that you want and you can go ahead and send that out or schedule it or whatever it is. When you schedule it, pretty straightforward. You just pick the date you want it to go out. You pick the time zone you're targeting, and then you pick whatever time it is you want to send it out. And that's going to be the very similar format for the reminders when we get there. So that's the blast campaigns. Let's see here. Can you repeat what happens on a canned response with no keyword? Let me go back to the canned responses. So with a canned response with no keyword, so if it's just there's two ways you can use it. So if I'm just, if I set my away message, it's not like you're going to send in the word away to get the away message. It's going to be the fact that it's assigned and it doesn't have a keyword. It's just a message that is automatically sent. But if you're in a conversation, you can pick any of the canned responses just as a response. So I just want to be able to send a canned response. I don't think this one has a keyword to it. Doesn't really matter if it does. I can just go ahead and send that off. But if I did have a canned response or with a keyword on it, like schedule, if I sent in the word schedule, then it would just say, please email me to book time. Again, the canned response with no auto reply are just meant to be used inside of conversations. The last piece here in the UI for the user is going to be the reminders. And the reminders are basically pretty simple and straightforward. You pick a user, you pick a date and time that you want to send it out. and you put in your message. So if you want to put in hello first, then you can go ahead and do that. Again, the merge words will work in any place you have a place to type. So you go ahead and save that, and then it shows up as scheduled. If you go back and look at anything that this might have been sent, like yesterday we were testing, then you can see if it was sent. This becomes your own little calendar. And if you do number share, again, you're going to be looking at the calendar for reminders for the user that you're sharing into. And so that's most of the user interface. Sean or Steve, did you have anything? Did we have any questions that I missed, or did you have any input that you want to add?
Yeah, just and I think one of the questions was, is there a cost for if you needed more users? So the starter plan comes with 3 users. There's if you need additional users, the cost is $7.50, and then for the professional, it comes with 5 users. If you need an additional user, it's $12.50. I believe we sent out the SMS rider last week to everyone, but if somebody didn't receive it, we can have that to you ASAP.
Perfect. So then I'm just looking at another question here, and we'll get to some of the Q&A as well. But since I'm in here and responding again, yes. So the canned response is just something that it's a response that I'm going to be able to send. If it doesn't have an auto reply, it's not going to automatically send. It's just there as a template or a phrase or whatever you want to be able to pop in, so you don't have to continuously type those over and over. All right, so let's jump into the administration piece of it. Since we've seen the user interface now, there's a couple of things that we want to talk about. Let's talk about those 3 steps again. So we go back to our little 3-step process. Our 3-step process again is to prep the telephone number, to create or verify the organization, and then create the users. So I want to be able to go in here, and the first step is to prep a number. So go in and into the telco and to manage the ID, and then go ahead and hit SMS on your number. The couple things that you're going to need to have is SMS and MMS have to be enabled, obviously. And then we need to have a branding campaign associated with it. Inbound messages will arrive if you don't have a branding campaign, but outbound will be blocked without having that. You don't need any routing at all. So the only things you have to do to prep the number is turn it on and then assign it to a branding campaign, and you can close it. Again, the routing is done at the provisioning of the user level within Cloud Message. So once you have the number prepped, the second is going to be, hey, let's create an organization. So we can jump in here once you log in. Again, when you log in for the first time, you're going to go under apps and under Cloud Message, and then it's going to have a single sign-on pop-up. So you either need to allow pop-ups on app.dashmanager.com, or you have to click the sign in as well. And it probably will prompt you for your Dash Manager credentials. The first time you log in, it's going to create your organization for admins. And so essentially what happens is all your users get single sign-on in and get created as an admin account. And it's important, again, we talked about this earlier, we don't want you to edit or modify the admin accounts. And there's a couple reasons for that. For one, they're not part of the professional or the starter plans. They are a third type of user. And as you can see on the left side, there is no SMS functionality. And the reason for this is we created a third user without the SMS functionality for admins who don't necessarily use the platform for SMS. So there's no reason to have a paid for account elevated to an admin level for access just to do administration. So that's why we want to be able to do that. So the way I normally suggest this is go ahead and create your organization first. So when you want to create yourself as a user, so you want to do ABC company, and then you search for an account inside the domain. It can be anything like demo or whatever it is. Generally, it's going to be your main domain that you have within the PBX where your telephone numbers are routed through. The description is going to be straightforward. You're going to need to call it demo or internal or whatever. But if you're creating it for a client, you basically want to be able to take some notes and say things like, hey, they do 2 users. It's, obviously professional or starter is going to be below, but maybe they use the blast campaigns. They send out X amount of messages. This is the type of comments that you want to be able to track for the administration purposes. For you, you're going to want to go ahead and create as a professional for yourself, because you're going to want to demo all of the features. And then if you're creating this for a client and they do have an IT person that wants to be able to manage some of it, after you've created the organization, you can come back and edit it, and then you can add people in as an organizational admin. So their professional or starter user will elevate into the admin, and they'll see an admin menu on the left, and they'll have the ability to help do number sharing and things like that. I'm not going to create it because I already have some created I can show you. So for example, once I have mine done, my test domain is here, it's created, it's professional, and I've added one of my users inside of my organization as an admin. So that's step 2. So you create your organization. And the third step is to create your user. And I highly suggest you use this little filtering funnel flashlight looking icon here and go into the organization that you're modifying. Again, stay away from the admin accounts as much as possible. There's a couple things to note in here. If you're creating a user for yourself, for example, I have a user in here as an admin, so it has my email address. The email address is a unique email address within the system. So if I create a user for myself, I need to have an alias. So I might just have like, my first initial last name at SkySwitch, or I might have something else. Some of the platforms like Office 365 and Google, they have the ability to do like a plus. So I could do like Derek plus cloud message at skyswitch.com, and it would still send and deliver. So as long as the email address is unique, it'll work. And this is only going to be in the fact that it's going to overlap for your admin accounts. You're not likely going to have this issue when it comes to creating users for your clients. So go ahead and then switch over. I generally recommend to switch over to your domain that you're modifying or working in, and then go ahead and add a user. So the first thing you do is give it a first name and last name, give it an email, and you're going to pick your organization. Let's say I'm just going to do my test domain, and then you're going to be able to do a couple things here. So if you want to have them log in with email as their credentials, you can go ahead and leave this just like this, and it'll send a welcome email that says, click on this link and set your password. If you end up adding the external identifier, this is going to be your PBX extension login credentials. So your extension at domain. Once that's set, that will allow a different welcome email to go out to say, use your PBX credentials. And so from there, you can actually log in with your same user account that you do the PBX. And on the login screen, there is a little button separate for logging in with PBX credentials. If 2FA or MFA is important for you, you definitely want to go down the external identifier road. The PBX does allow for Google Authenticator to enable 2FA. And so setting up the user at domain, when they log in, it'll honor that 2FA request. Once you set the organization on here, this is where the telephone number filtering is going to be. So now you're going to be able to type in the area code, and the suggestion numbers are going to show up. This is going to filter down to the domain that you've set on the organization, and then look at any SMS numbers that are associated with that are available. So in this case, I have the ability to pick, this one's available, and I can go ahead and assign it. If it's already assigned to a different user, or if it's assigned somewhere else like Reach UC or whatever, it'll show up here in the list. So I can just hit pick, and then basically I just go ahead and hit add user. At that point, it's going to create the user and set that route, and then you are set. Once your users are created, you have the ability to go in here and edit them. And there's a couple things you can do inside of here. One is you can change the name or whatever, the password. Well, let me back up here. One key thing is you cannot change the telephone number. Conversations are tied to telephone numbers. So for example, if you think about a contact texting into you, a conversation is tied to that contact that you create. Same thing with your user. That whole conversation, so the other side of that conversation is tied to the telephone number that's associated with your user. If you need to be able to change your number, you need to create a new user at this point. So I can use a number is already assigned to Reach UC. The intention is to have one or the other. So with Reach UC, the messages don't necessarily sync back and forth between the different applications. With Cloud Message, I can send a message in, I can log into the PBX and see the messages. I log into the mobile app and see the messages, and those are all synced up. However, if you sync them both in both places, then you're going to have some of the messiness of if I reply to it and Reach UC, it's not necessarily going to go to my Cloud Message. And so some of that conversation history and things like that might get lost. So the recommendation is to do one or the other. And then if you need to copy messages elsewhere, do it from a perspective of just notification. Some of the questions we've had is, how do I get notified that I got text messages if I'm not logged in or whatever? You can copy them to an email. Again, log into the PBX or log into the portal and respond to them from there. But you can utilize email for notification purposes. So that's the user details. Again, can't change the telephone number that's tied to it. You can change the password. So if they're utilizing email address as their login, you can change the password here. if they're utilizing PBX credentials, the password has to be administered over at the PBX. So they can go log into the pbx.whatever portal that they're logging into, click, reset password there. The reset password for Cloud Messages login is only for email authentication. As an admin, you can change permissions. So if they're set up as a professional, you can limit or give them some of the functionality that you want. So for example, if they don't want to or use Blast, or maybe they're abusing it or they don't know how to use it or whatever, you can turn that off for them and they can use all the other functionality. Number sharing is pretty straightforward. You can see the numbers that are shared with this user, and then you basically click the drop down, and then you can set and say, share my number with this other person. Most of the time, it's going to be a main telephone number shared down to a couple of users, and then those users are going to be able to send on behalf of that main telephone. However, there are cases where I might want a coworker to be able to share messages and send them on behalf of me. However, if you do that, then you're going to get notifications for them. So when I log in as me and then a notification comes in on the main telephone number because of the sharings there, I will get notifications that that's there. So that will give me a hint to go in and either respond to it or verify that it's been responded to. And in the end, there are some of the relays, webhook relays, and then at the end, it'll be some API functionality. We are looking at the API functionality being tied in with the branded at this point. Later on, we're going to hopefully just do API access through just Cloud Messages itself. Let's see here. So that's pretty much all of the administration portions. So that you've gone through all three of the steps. So you've prepped the number, you've gone through the organization, and you've created the users. And then basically you can go ahead and log in. So again, I'm going to show back on here and just kind of hit this log out button to show you what the login looks like. So if I'm logging with email credentials, I'm going to click here and then populate whatever my email is and my password, and then I'm going to log in. However, if I'm logging in with PBX credentials, I'm not going to use this up here. So I can't put in my 123@domain up here. I'm going to click this login with PBX button, and then up will come a pop-up that will allow me to type in my username and password from there. And it looks like my internet's running a little slow, but essentially it's just a different login screen for your credentials. So here you would just type in 123@domain, and then that's your username for the PBX and whatever your password is, and that will honor that. All right, so that is all of the logins and all of that stuff as well. And we've also gone through all of the pieces. So let's look at some of the questions. Steve, what are the questions that we've got come up?
So the one I see here is the plan to replace vBroadcast with this platform?
vBroadcast has some functionality that this does not, like with the calling functionality. So we do have some intentions to integrate with the PBX. One of the ones that we want to start with is from the user interface. When you're in a conversation, we want to be able to have like a click to call. So if you're logged in with single sign-on, we want to be able to say, click to call this number. It's going to call your phone on your desk. You'll pick it up and it'll ring out to whoever that other wireless subscriber is. We also have intentions on tying in texting from the auto attendant. So if you call into an auto attendant and like press 5 for directions to be sent to your number, those are things that we're going to start tying in. The goal is to have things like an SMS level at the organization, not just at the user level, that we can use. This doesn't replace really anything today. This is a third tool. So you have vBroadcast, you have ReachUC, and you have Cloud Message. So this kind of sits above and beyond ReachUC, where you have advanced features. And yes, 10DLC applies in all messaging that utilizes local numbers. Cloud Message can utilize any of the numbers that you have today, so your main telephone number or your DID. And again, you can't send out a message without having that telephone number associated with a 10DLC campaign. And back to vBroadcast, some of the functions that people utilize with it, we can do and replicate here. So some of this auto response and blasts and things like that. A lot of times people don't have a toll-free number. They don't want to be able to go into vBroadcast. It's a little more complicated. It does have a little more power under the engine on vBroadcast as far as some of that stuff goes. This Cloud Message platform will suffice for a lot of clients as far as what they need. And it's very simple to use, very clean interface. And again, 3 steps to set it up and log in, and a couple things, you're good to go. No, you can't access this from ReachUC. This is its own platform. It does have its own mobile apps as well. Anything else? Did I miss anything?
The only other thing, if you want to touch on, Derek, is someone had a question regarding when logging in as a user, you have to go incognito or another browser.
Yeah,
To do
and
that.
yeah, and I'll go in here as well too. So there's a couple things to note after this. Let's go back into here real quick. One of the things, some of the things that to remember when you're in administration mode. So again, your Dash Manager login creates the account. So when you log in for the first time, it's going to create your reseller environment, and it's going to create an organization just for your admins. That admin account gets created. It has no SMS functionality, and it should not be edited. Once you're in there, then you create your own user. And so when you're doing administration for you and having a user as yourself, this only time it's going to come in for that incognito is if you pull up another tab and try to go to app.cloudmessage.io, it's going to retain that admin session, and you're not going to be able to log out, log back in. It's going to try to keep single signing you in through the Dash Manager. So the workaround for the administration is to either go into an incognito window or go into a totally different browser. So if you noticed, I was using Chrome for everything, and then when I was an admin, and then from a user perspective, I just fired up Firefox. This isn't going to be an issue for clients that are using it because they're not going to have an admin and a user account. Again, 10 DLC compliance does apply. If you're using local telephone numbers and you're trying to send out messages, it does apply. You need to have a branding campaign. The telephone numbers can't be changed. We talked about that. And then again, the email addresses must be unique. And then again, use separate browsers for admin and user. So those are some of the key takeaways. One of the reasons why we want to do demos and walkthroughs prior to going into and just a mass allowing access to Cloud Message is some of these things do get tripped up, and it ends up causing some support issues just because some of the things that we can talk about in a demo or a webinar are real easy to just understand and go and bypass it. So.
Hey, Derek, real quick. So maybe this might be a question for Sean. Someone's asking regarding, is there any sort of demo pricing available to be able to do demonstrations?
At this point, there's not. Sean, I don't know if you want to take on that, but I think we have some requests for some future tiers for that. It's in talks, but basically from a demonstration perspective, you'll create your own accounts and demo them. And then basically, once you start getting customers, it'll pay for itself at that point.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, as of today, there's not a free demo account now. We're not starting billing for this until the 1st of May. So for the rest of the month, there will be no cost if you want to go in there and create accounts and play with it. And there'll be no cost for the rest of the month because it's technically considered still beta. It's going live per se on the 1st.
So yeah, so at this point, some people have asked, can I put clients on this? And we have done some early demonstrations with people, and the answer is yeah. I mean, if it's still in beta at this point, but there's no reason you can't start putting them on, getting their feedback, submitting any feature requests that you have or concerns or anything that you find if there's a bug or something. Just let them know. Right now, it's early and it's still in beta. We're going to go live with it, and the intention is you can start putting on and using it for yourself. And then put your customers on.
How about another one here, Derek? With number sharing, is there a way to transfer the conversation for a specific user?
So we do have the ideas around kind of a call center functionality where you can own or transfer conversations as a feature, down the road for roadmap. So right now, it's just going to be you're going in sharing through number sharing, responding to the messages. It's going to track who sent them. I think the next step that we're going to do is going to have like internal notes. So that way, if you want to, in the conversation, track like a ticket number or something like that, or if you're sharing that conversation with somebody else, leave a message for them. That won't actually send out as an SMS to the wireless subscriber. However, we are going to have, there's a lot of things we want to do with this. We intend to expand it via integrations. We intend to expand it via functions, integrations into the PBX, integrations into CRM, just internal functionality. We do want to, again, make that professional level more and more desirable. So the starter is there, kind of like that gateway drug, get you started, get you hooked, get you into the next features, and you'll see the value in it, and you want to move to that professional level.
Great.
I Let's see here. I think there's some pricing questions. So the way this works is the pack is tied to the domain. And so your 2 users for starter are going to be tied to that domain. And then in the next domain, you're going to either pick professional or starter, and then that pack will apply to that domain as well. And so if you want to go above and beyond the 2 and 5, there will be an additional cost, but it is at a per domain level. See here, looks like there's one more question. Is there a way to set up a blast campaign to automatically stay within 10 DLC limits for AT&T T-Mobile? Yes and no. So we're working to figure out the best way to do this. So Cloud Message and Reach UC, whenever you send a message, it gets sent into the message hub and it gets queued up at that point. So the way it works is the message hub will send it through the carrier, and if the 10 DLC limits are hit, it'll come back and say undeliverable, and it'll hold that until it's deliverable again. I don't know if there is a timeout at some point where it fails, like if it's the next day or whatever it is, but essentially, if you're going to be sending out lots of blast messages, there's no tool that tells you whether or not that number is AT&T, T-Mobile, or Verizon. Essentially, you're blending those blast messages across all of the carriers. And so in some cases, like Verizon, there really isn't a limitation. It's just AT&T and T-Mobile. They have 2,000 a day or 75 a minute, depending on if it's low volume mixed, or those are increased if you go up to mixed. So the answer is, if somebody's going to be doing blast campaigns and it's going to be over a couple hundred a day, you should consider going from a low volume mixed into a mixed volume, or start creating a telephone number that has its own dedicated campaign, and then get them vetted if they need to go even higher yet. I see there's a 5 user max. No, so the starter plan and the professional plan come with 2 users and 5 users respectively, but you can add as many users in that domain as you want. So if you have 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever it is, you'll be charged the $50 for the first 5, and then it's $12.50 per user for professional after that. And I didn't see if there was any other questions. Steve or Sean, did you have anything to add, or is there anything else that we wanted to kind of go over? Or
I'm not sure if the answer. I saw one in there that was asking for recommended pricing to the customer.
Yep, I answered that one.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I mean, it's what recommended. So yeah, recommended for starter was $30 recommended retail price, and then for professional was $100 recommended. But as you know, at the end of the day, you can dictate retail however you like.
Yep, and then somebody just posted the usage is outside of this. So the same with Reach UC, you're paying for a seat or a license in Reach UC. It's the same here. You're just paying for the tool. The usage and campaign, 10 DLC, things of that type of nature are outside of the license itself to use the tool. If you need to be able to calculate some of the costs for that, go into the 10 DLC under Telco Portal and click on the tools on the far right under 10 DLC. And at the bottom, there is a calculator for usage. So you can pick the campaign and brand, things like that, and roughly how many messages they're going to send. And you can kind of get a blended cost for usage and monthly fees per telephone number at that point. So, all right. So I think we answered quite a bit of questions. We have a little bit of time to give back. If there's no other questions, I'll just kind of go to the bottom. I believe, Erica, we're going to send out the deck and recording. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We can send out the deck if you'd like. If not, we can definitely send out the recording. That'll be sent out via email, just like you got the email for this webinar. We are doing, just in case you think you missed anything, and just to clarify, the webinar that we are doing next Tuesday is essentially the exact same thing that you've seen today. It's not going to be anything different, so don't feel like you're missing out if you missed next week's webinar. That will also be recorded and sent out as well. So yeah, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out to Derek, Steve, or Sean, and we hope that you find this platform valuable. Thank you guys for coming to this SkySwitch webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day, everyone.